Yeah. Yeah. So you guys who are just joining us, just drop in the chat where you're calling from because it's always interesting to see that. And also, please drop in the chat like how familiar are you with Clay? Because we're going to talk about the basics initially with Patrick, because we want to take both a strategic look and like a really tactical way of looking at this tool, because it's very tempting to start playing with Clay and then start trying to enrich the hell out of your list right away and start crafting personalized emails and then like lose sight of where you came from. and so we're gonna take a more strategic approach, but we'd love to know, just so that we can make this conversation more worthwhile. How familiar are you with Clay? If you're a newbie, just hit one in the chat. If you're like intermediate and you've played around with it and you're familiar, hit a two. And if you're a ninja master guru, then hit three. Like three is Patrick, but not just Patrick, but
Yeah, there's got to be
like
more.
if you've done campaigns and several rounds of enrichments and even workflows, then you're a three. But yeah, just hit one, two, or three based on like how capable are you with this tool, because we're gonna base everything off of that. Okay.
Yeah, I also feel like I thought I was a three like several times before I actually became one,
Okay.
Like it's one of those tools I feel like I don't know, like I feel like I felt like I had it, several times, but there's there's so much to do in it, there's so many
Yeah,
integrations. So anyway,
got it.
yeah.
Okay, so you guys, so Patrick, he sort of works at Clay and he also works with private clients with his consultancy on outbound sequences. And so he's a really knowledgeable guy when it comes to this technology and this platform. And Patrick, what I wanted to ask you first is when you see companies familiarize themselves with this tool, obviously B2B technology companies, like what are some of the things that they need to have in place in order to do a good job at this? In other words, can anybody just go in and kick ass with this tool? Or
Yeah,
are there
so
some
I
requirements?
feel like one of the biggest misconceptions with Clay is that you can just start using it and immediately get incredible email results. I would say, if anything, the learning curve for Clay, although I'd say the payoff is much larger, but it's significant. Like it's much more than I'd say a generic cold email campaign. So I would say it's the type of thing that you want to invest in learning, but it definitely doesn't happen immediately. So a couple things you need to get started. Definitely decent email infrastructure. I see
Mhm.
this all the time, and it's like one of the biggest problems in cold email as a whole. Even for like I've seen like massive, massive companies. Some of our biggest clients have had the worst email infrastructure in the world, where like none of their emails are sending. You're not getting a single positive response. So that's the first thing. You need good
Mhm.
email infrastructure. The second thing is you need to find some decent sequencing tools. I don't know what sort of campaigns you want to run, but if I'm guessing it's either LinkedIn or email for the most part. I would definitely recommend using a smart lead or a Lemlist or a like growth machine or a HeyReach, something that you can send these
Yeah.
emails out with. And then the
Yeah.
third
Are
thing
you
you'll need,
familiar with Expandy, by the way? Just
yes,
as
yes, also expanding, another good tool, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I know some of the team over there, and yeah, they've got a pretty solid tool over there. So yeah, absolutely, big fan of Expandy as well, of course. And then yeah, the last thing I would say you need is good copy. Like if you don't have good copy, it doesn't really matter what you're using Clay for, you're going to fail.
Mhm.
Like it just doesn't matter. Clay is meant to get your best copy that's already working, and apply it at scale, pretty much. And of course, find more data to inform more personalized copy. But without those three things, wouldn't recommend going crazy with Clay. Like it's easy to see all of the flashy tables you're building out, like where like the stuff on LinkedIn where there's like I'm sending out these personalized videos or like custom images or all this fancy stuff, but like it's really not worth doing if you don't have good copy. It's kind of like
Yeah.
you need those. It's a prerequisite.
Okay. And I always, because Clay is such a complex tool and it's so capable in so many ways. I love asking this question. So in your words or in your mind, what is Clay or what does Clay do? Like in layman's terms.
Yeah, so it does so much, it's hard to define truly, but I would
I know,
say
that's why it's a
it's
hard
in a
question.
way, it's like a data intermediary and an aggregate of a bunch of data sources that you can use to solve use cases. That would be like the highest level view. But really what it is there are a ton of data sources out there. I'm sure most people are aware of them, or at least some of them. Like there's Apollo, there's clearbit, there's all the email finders, there's email validators. There are a ton of tools you can use to find, enrich, or augment data in some capacity. And Clay is just a tool that aggregates all of those into one easy to use spreadsheet platform. So like instead of having to get like a CSV of emails and then go validate them and then have to go find like the LinkedIns of each person individually and then do research on them manually, you can just do all of it automatically with Clay. So it's a great way to just apply these data sources at scale in aggregate and then use them ultimately for whatever use case. The most popular one, of course, being outbound sales. Like that's what most people are using it for. But there's other use cases. I mean, some of our clients don't even do outbound with Clay, and they still
Really?
have like, yeah, ridiculously cool use cases. Like one of our biggest clients right now, they use it just for recruiting. So like, they're not even doing outbound with the recruiting either. It's just like it's just data enrichment. Like they want all of their recruiters to have 7 or 8 data points on each of the prospects, and so they just pretty much create like better lead lists in a way with Clay. You can also
Awesome.
do like stuff with marketing. For example, you can find enrich data on people in your marketing lookalike list and then run better marketing campaigns with that data. So there's
11 लोग तो उनमें से 2 तो ये हैं।
but yeah,
Whoopsie. Okay.
there's I would
Got
say
it.
it yeah, on the top level, it's just a data aggregator tool that you can use to do a lot of stuff. That's really fun.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say most people in the audience here, they are either founders or responsible for marketing / growth at B2B tech companies. The scenario is that they obviously have an inbound engine. They have some sort of outbound going with moderate success. And they're sitting on this webinar hoping to learn how to get started with something that they have a lot of high hopes for because they've been seeing a lot of hype about it. And so how do you get started if you're this person?
Yeah. So the first thing I would start with before doing anything technical is copy. And there's obviously a ton of resources out there on how to write great email copy, but I'd say the best strategy changes pretty frequently. So the first thing I would do is I would sit down and answer a few questions. The first one being obviously what's my ICP, like the basic target audience question. What problem am I solving for them? List out a couple different value props. And then ultimately I would want to write copy that like not templated copy, but I would want to write the best possible email I could for my product or service. That would be the first thing I would do. So just like no matter like don't even think about the fact that you're scaling this copy. Just write the best possible copy you can. And then think to yourself, what data would I need to write this copy? For example,
Yeah,
let's say you're reaching out to somebody and they're like, they just you want to reference whether they just got hired or not. You'd be like, okay, well, I need to know when they started their most recent job in order to figure out whether they were recently hired, right? So like there's data backing all of the stuff you're sending. So
awesome.
yeah,
Okay, just please pause right there, everybody. Super important. So what Patrick is saying is start with the end in mind, meaning the right way to go at this is not to jump into the tool and be like, okay, let's see what it can do. Let's see how far I can take this thing and what I can use it for. No, start with the end in mind. And that's why he said that it's very important to be good at copy, because the end in mind means that you're going to have, let's say, in an outbound motion, in an outbound scenario, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5 outbound messages. And you want to create based on the knowledge of about your ICP, like the perfect emails or LinkedIn messages, meaning like you'd want all the information in there. So pretend you knew everything about your buyer and then write the perfect outbound messages for them. And that's a good starting point. So have the emails done first.
yeah,
Back to you,
absolutely.
sir.
Yeah, that's
Step
exactly
2.
it. I mean, so yeah, obviously there's a ton of resources out there on how to write good copy. I would definitely recommend checking them out. Eric Nowoslawski is a great place to look. He has an incredible LinkedIn profile. I wrote an article on it. Feel free to check that as well. But I would say figure out how to write good copy, write your best copy. Second step is I would write down what data, as I mentioned before, what data is required to support this copy. I mean, any personalization requires data of some kind. I mean, you have to research the prospect or company in order to write personalized copy. Otherwise, it's not personalized. So
Mhm.
what research would you have to do to find that data? Then finally, I would go into Clay and try figure out ways to find these data points. Like that would be my first step. Like I think a lot of people, kind of as Dan just mentioned, go into Clay to toy around with the tool, try to figure out cool things it can do, and then write copy or try to use it for outbound. I would say actually work backwards. So
Yeah.
actually try to solve that specific use case you just created with Clay, then, I think it'll just allow you to learn the tool a lot faster. So let's say there's 5 or 6 data points required for these personalizations. Go into Clay, click on the enrichments panel, figure out if those data points are available to be found. And that's kind of how you learn these integrations. Like, for example, let's say you look up a data point and it doesn't show up in Clay. Well, there's this AI scraper, clAgent that you can use in Clay. Maybe that can find it, right? And you just toy around with these different tools, figure out ways to solve problems that you already have. There's no need to create problems and try to solve them. Like, write copy, solve the problems associated with that copy. So that'd be the next. The step sorry?
Sorry, can I come in?
Yeah, feel free to.
Sorry. Maybe you had a question and I just muted you.
Yeah, you muted me. All right. I'm
But
back.
sorry about that. Sorry, Carl. Go ahead.
No worries. So my question would be to understand the following, answers is like, is Clay suitable for sending email campaigns, but also can I use it to say campaigns for my LinkedIn contacts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to think when you're doing copy for campaigns, the copy can vary between channels, like email and LinkedIn copy will be different, but you can still use it for both. And there are tools such as Expandy or HeyReach where you can reach out to people via LinkedIn and Clay connects directly with them. So they can be used for LinkedIn or email.
All right, so I can integrate Expandy with Clay, right? And then the Expandy will send what I've created in Clay.
Well,
yeah, correct.
Technically, you can't directly integrate that many tools because, correct me, Patrick, if I'm wrong, but I think like it connects straight to Smart Lead, like natively.
And HeyReach, yeah.
And HeyReach, okay, and so like all the other tools you either have to like integrate manually or you'd have to use Make.com or Zapier or something like that.
Yes, you can integrate. You can integrate them though. Like you absolutely can. There's if you know how to connect the API to Clay, there's this integration called the HTTP API integration in Clay, and you can connect it that way. So it's more than possible to connect them, which is worth noting. Like it's not a limited tool at all. You just have to know how to connect these different tools to Clay. But yes, in short, you can use it for pretty much any channel. Like literally any tool that you use for outreach, you can probably connect to Clay either manually or has a native integration for it.
So Clay doesn't send information on its own. You need to use other tools for sending. All right.
Correct.
Cool.
Yes. So Clay's like the data intermediary. Like you can find leads with it, but you can't send out any sort of messaging with Clay. You have to connect to an external tool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. No problem. Of course. Okay. So, I would say generally after getting that data to back your copy, it would be then worth noting to yourself, like, do I need to write custom AI first lines or lines at all? Using this data, I would never at the moment, I would not recommend writing copy completely with AI. Like, don't have it write you a full email. I'm so skeptical of it. The only tool that comes close is a tool called Twain. It's like Twain.ai that writes pretty good outbound. Like if you don't have access to a great copywriter, use Twain. Don't try it yourself. But like,
oh really? That's new for me. Okay.
Yeah, it's like definitely like my thing is like if you have access to a copywriter, 100% are the copywriter, but if you don't, Twain's probably better than you if you've never done outbound before. Okay. Like, so anyway, but instead, back to the point is I would use AI to write snippets of copy. I would not have it write the entire copy. So I would write a template. I would templatize that best copy ever that I wrote, add personalizations to it, be like, okay, well, this needs to be a personalized line. This needs to be a personalized line. This part I can keep the same every time. And then I would use the AI integrations in Clay. Which is they have a ton of different AI integrations, and you can connect to cloud, like Anthropic, pretty much anything you want to write these snippets, and then sequence snippets to my campaign, of course. So
okay. Question, Patrick. So let's say we've got a team and we've got decent copywriters, but now we're starting to feel super powerful now that we have a tool like Clay. So the question is, the perfect message, the perfect cold outbound message, how much research should go into it? Because it's one thing that I can research a lot of things and personalize the hell out of my messages with Clay, but is it worth it? Yeah. What works these days?
So the level of personalization you want to use in your copy is completely contingent on how good your offer is. If you have this example I always use is if you're offering somebody in an email $1 million and you can somewhat find a way to make that $1 million offer seem not like a scam, people will respond every single time. There is just no way they will ever say no to that, right? They'll respond no matter what. If your offer sucks, if you have a really commoditized offer that has pretty much no differentiator to the other competition, this happens a lot maybe in real estate or insurance, you're going to have to use a lot of personalization because the thing you're selling is way less enticing and you have to make it seem a lot more like you're sending out a really good, personalized email. So at the end of the day, your offer is the most important part of your copy. If you have a really good offer, you don't need any personalization. We've had emails that have sent out with incredible results that have had zero. We've also had emails that have 70 or 80% personalization that do well for more commoditized offers. So the answer is obviously vague, but you have to be kind of real with yourself. Like, how good is my offer actually? Like if I was not owning this company and I was completely objective, would I say yes to this? In the $1 million case, anybody would say yes to that within reason, right? As long as they don't think it's a scam. So.
Let me pick at you for a little bit. So the average person on this call, I think most of us, just based on numbers, like 95% of us are going to be representing companies where our offer is somewhat unique, but if we're honest, it's more like a commodity, and the marketer or the product team is having a hard time differentiating. So it's not like, you're not curing cancer, you're not SpaceX, you're not anything. So like it's hard. You're not something unique like Clay. You're more like an Apollo, which, there you can just name 25 other companies that are similar to Apollo. That's the first half of the question. The second half is, in the first email, you're not necessarily making an offer. You don't really talk about your product. You just usually talk about the problem, and you're trying to get people on a call to go deeper. So you're not necessarily like, here's our tool and it's the best in the world. Do you want to buy it? Because most of us are in B2B high ACV land. So we don't do that. But maybe you do, but but to my knowledge, most people just try to get a demo of the first thing.
Yeah.
So what's your process on this?
Yes. So when I say offer, I mean the thing that I'm offering in exchange for a call. Generally, if you're asking for a demo and you don't ask for anything in exchange, it's not like it won't work every time, but the odds of it working are way lower. So I try to offer something in exchange for a call, ideally something that is relevant to the solution that you're providing. So like, I'm not saying, I mean, this has worked actually in the past for us, but I'm not saying be like, hey, I'll give you a free pair of AirPods if you get on the call with me, right? Like, it's more so saying like, here's a great example. One of our clients is a UGC content aggregator. So we got all the user-generated content for a brand like Ralph Lauren or something, gets all the TikToks people have posted about Ralph Lauren and puts them in one platform. And the problem they're solving is it's really annoying to find all of those TikToks manually, and this platform aggregated it for you. So in the offer, we would say, if you get on a call with me, I will get every single piece of UGC made about your brand over the past 3 months and give it to you for free. All you have to do is get on the call with me and I'll demonstrate how our tool works, right? So like, that's what I mean by offer. Of course, the higher the ACV, that better your offer can be because the more worth it is. But I still always have some sort of offer in exchange for a call. So that answers kind of the
That
second.
is so key. Like, not a lot of people talk about this. So again, guys, this isn't even personalization and enrichment and Clay or nothing. It's just pure outbound strategy. So have some sort of a hook or a freebie or something that makes your demo or discovery call more enticing. So I think that's a biggie. That is a huge one. Yeah.
For sure. And to answer kind of the first part of your question, like, of course, not everybody has that like insane offer that they can give somebody. Like, again, if you're selling insurance, you can't really give like a super cool relevant offer like, hey, I'll insure you for a month for free. Like, and like it's kind of hard to do that. So in that case, I would definitely personalize, but I think the key with personalization is using it for some sort of actual relevant meaning. Like, I haven't really seen a lot of success ever with personalization, just like, hey, I saw you went to Duke, like, go Blue Devils, but even if you didn't go to Duke, it's just like it doesn't like show really any sort of, I don't know, it seems disingenuous. Like, it doesn't seem like you actually are trying to make a connection with them. It's just like a weird intro line. So when I use personalization, it's to try to demonstrate how our product could specifically solve a problem for somebody. So I'll give an example. Another one of our clients was a site speed agency. So like, they pretty much would improve your e-commerce website site speed. So what we did for our personalization in the email was we got their website traffic, we got their average order value, and we got their site speed. So we'd say, hey, saw that your site speed is lower than the average score. Considering that you have this many website visitors and this product average price and an average conversion rate of 2%, you're probably making around this amount of money every month. And if that's around the range, and if you increase your site speed by a second, you can make another, let's say, $1.5 million a month by improving your site speed. Our site speed thing only costs $8,000, right? So like the point being, really, it's like providing real relevance. Like if they read that and we're even close to the range that they're making, they're going to be like, oh, well, I can make another $200,000 and all they have to do is make my site speed faster and they're only 8,000. So why wouldn't I pay for it? You know, it's like that's when you use personalization for. It's not for unnecessary.
I wish, I so wish there was we'll have to invent a new word, because you don't actually want to be personal as in personal details, because this is business to business. You want to be relevant. So like maybe relevantization would be the right word. And speaking of that, I saw a post from Santosh, who's the co-founder of our B2B, and this really resonated, and it got like 1 million comments. Like it resonated with other people too. So he's like, I'll respond to cold email and cold outreach that is making a good attempt at understanding my problems. And he's like, okay, so if we do this, what we're going to try to do is not push our product, not even try to personalize based on the guy that we're speaking to. We want to make a good attempt at guessing their problem.
Exactly. Yes,
and then going deeper on that. And he's like, okay, do I have this right? I mean, I want to understand your problem more. And if you can sell to me that you really actually care about the problem genuinely that I face, I know you're going to sell me something down the line, but like that's a huge point of differentiation. And if you can automate, like you said, like with the site speed thing, it's awesome.
Absolutely. Totally. I completely agree. I'll talk about the best cold email I've ever gotten in my life, and it was not from me. I've been running clAy's YouTube channel for the past like a year and a half or so. And one day I got a cold email from somebody, and they had gone into the YouTube channel and come up with like 15 really solid like critiques and recommendations on the YouTube channel, being like, your SEO for this is off, like this thumbnail isn't gonna work, like all of this stuff that was true. Like it was stuff that I was like, wow, wait, this is actually all very relevant and true. And then at the end of the email, they're just like, hey, if you're interested in fixing some of this, let me know. And so they put like, I don't think you could even personalize what they did, but the point being, they put like an obscene amount of effort into the email. And I, of course, responded because I was just like, anybody who's putting that much effort into a cold email is going to kill it for helping my YouTube. Like if they're putting like probably 20-30 minutes of free work into a cold email, one cold email, like I can't imagine what they'll do for me. So that was the best cold email I've ever gotten. And it just shows, it goes to your point, like they found every problem I was facing, even problems I didn't know about. And then they're like, I'm going to fix them. And I was like, awesome. Sounds good. I'll leave it to you, you know? So yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Languages. What languages does clAy operate?
Well, clAy itself, I think, operates in most languages. The problem is usually the AI integrations. I'm not really sure, honestly. But I know there's a ton of clAy clients overseas that are not using it in English.
Okay, there are two parts to this question. So one is the data. So clAy buys data from data providers. It's just a data aggregator. So I'm running into problems in specific European countries, like French people. For the French market, it's struggling. In our market, it's crap. So, you know, in Hungary, you just don't have a lot of data on people here. So that's not a language question. That's like a geography issue. And the other is when it comes to like analyzing and composing messages, well, the AI does that. So depending on whether you use Chat, GPT, or Claude, so whatever languages they're good at, it's going to work inside of clAy, because clAy doesn't create text. It's the large language model that does.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's like right on the nail. Like it was just like whatever some of the data providers might have great data in other languages, some of them might not. And then I've seen OpenAI get a little bit better at, you know, responding in other languages. But I'm not one to vouch. I know English. That's pretty much it. So I can't really tell you for sure. But yeah, I've heard it's gotten better.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So you talked about this cold email sequence, and like what constitutes a good cold email, and then you just reverse engineer the data that you need for that. And then comes the next part, which is constructing the email, which is not so super straightforward, because you're not just going to tell the AI to write an email, because that's not going to work, but rather you're going to templatize it. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So when we're doing this email templatization, I don't know what the word is necessarily, but when we're creating this template, we're not letting the AI be creative at all. Like, we want to know exactly what the sentence it outputs is going to look like before it outputs it. If you let AI be creative, it will inevitably ruin your copy. Hopefully that's not the case down the line. It is the case now. So when we're writing copy, it's not like we're having AI come up with things that we couldn't come up with. It's like we're thinking of outbound ideas and having it write a sentence based on that. So we'll have it pop out pretty much on the lines of like, this is a great example. Like, if you're referencing a LinkedIn post in an AI personalization, let's say you're just saying, hey, saw your post about blank. I will literally tell the AI output, saw your post about, and then the output, and then I'll be like, make it 5 words. So like, it has very, very little freedom. So when I'm templatizing it, the AI is really being used as a tool, not a creative partner. And I would definitely recommend using it for that purpose, just as a tool. So
Yeah.
when I'm
By the way, Patrick, and anytime you want to share your screen and like start showing stuff for real, just feel free to.
for sure. I definitely have something I could probably.
Yeah, because then we're going to ask you to like show us something really cool that's working right now.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
if you want to illustrate whatever you were talking about, then that
Yeah,
would also.
totally. I'll just pull up one, like an example copy that I have
Yeah.
that like relatively personalized. Hold on. Here's a great example of one I've been running for a plant store. I need to find the right one though. Hold on. It's gotta be this one. Yep. Okay, cool. One moment. Is sharing screen like permissions on?
I think it's allowed for you, right?
I'll check one second. Okay. So can you see my screen now?
It's on. Yes.
Okay, so here's a notion for a plant store that we were doing outbound for. The reason I was doing outbound for a plant store is because their Clay's head of brand has a plant store. So I figured I'd help him out and try to get him some corporate gifting clients. This is more of just like I don't know, like a fun campaign to do. But this is how I think about my campaign. I have a targeting section. It's very basic. Targeting, my personalizations, and explaining exactly what the personalizations are, and then my copy itself. The first thing you can notice about my copy is it's very short. I would just recommend in any case being as concise as possible with your copy. The second thing you'll see is in each one of these brackets we have personalization, so you can't even actually read the email and have it make sense when you're reading it here. Like, personalization line is its own custom line. You can see there's a bunch here. So essentially what I'm doing is, after I wrote that like ideal copy I realized, okay, so this first line has to be personalized, otherwise it doesn't make sense. Obviously, company name has to be, the mission of the company has to be, and then so pretty much the idea of this campaign was it was kind of like a vibey fun campaign, but the point was like we recommend a plant that the company should buy for some like random reason. Be like, oh, because Apple's so focused on aesthetic, we'd recommend tulips because they're aesthetically beautiful or something, right? Like stupid like that. But up here we have the personalizations themselves, and sometimes you have to be more in depth than others. For this case, we had to be very in depth. So the whole point is we have a personalization line, and it's dependent on an intent signal or a trigger. And there's 3 that we're looking for. So if the company is hiring, we have a first line that we're outputting, whether they're like pretty much just addressing that. If the company's raised funds recently, we have a line to output for that, and headcount growth, same thing. So we have a first line customized, dependent on a certain intent signal that the company might fit. Then we just have the mission personalization, which is just what the company's good at. So I just fed the company's description into the AI, and I said, tell me what their general mission is in like maybe less than 7 words. Then we have a plant. So I feed this mission into another AI integration, and I say, here's a list of 50 plants that this plant store provides. Give me the plant that most aligns with the mission and why. And I know that's a crazy thing to do, but like I figured it would work, and actually it did. We got a lot of positive responses. So and we're reaching out to marketing people in this case who like just love random emails like this. So And then the reason, of course, which kind of just ties into this one. And then there's another one down here where we're suggesting plants that are near the company's location. So another one, like we said, hey, notice that you're located in New York City. Thought your team might want like I don't know, like a mini oak tree because there's a lot of those in New York. I don't know. I'm just making something up. But the point being, we have recommending plants based on a location. And you can also see as I go down in this email sequence, we always do 4 emails. It's almost always structured this way. But it's important to note that the personalization lessens every time we take a step down in the copy. The reason we do that is because personalization costs credits in Clay. And if you sent 3 emails out, the odds of them responding to the 4th are a lot lower than they were the first. I don't want to spend the same amount of money on the 4th email than I do the first, because it just doesn't make sense economically. So also worth noting. But yeah, usually the way we structure our email campaigns is we obviously have the value prop and the offer in the first one, like a generic first email. The second one is us reframing the value prop in some way. So like we already tried one angle, let's try another, right? So this one was like plant gifts elevate the vibe of a workspace and improve concentration. And then this one is like maybe your team wants some nice plants in the office. So we try to take a different angle as to why they might need our product or service. The third one is offering a better offer. And this one, I actually didn't do it. I have the same offer for both, but usually we improve our offer in the 3rd email. And then the 4th one is just a breakup. Is there anybody else that'd be worth talking to? So anyway, hopefully that was a somewhat helpful rundown of my copy strategy, but it's pretty basic in a sense. Yeah.
Totally. So what does this look like inside of Clay when you start to actually run those variables for the personalization?
Yeah, sure. I can actually I'll pull up that exact table so I can show
Wow.
you. Because
You guys, is this making sense? So while Patrick is pulling that up, can you just write in the chat, like plus if you're understanding this, following along, and if it's useful, minus if you need more explanation or something's iffy and foggy and unclear. So let us know, give us feedback.
Okay, so here's the Clay table. Also, if this doesn't make any sense, yeah, obviously just let me know, but I'll just keep walking through it in the meantime.
Okay.
So this is the Clay table. We did an Apollo import, so that's where these contacts are from. You can see first that we have the companies. We don't have the people in this table. It's just the companies we're reaching out to.
Okay, by the way, do you prefer importing from Apollo versus using like the LinkedIn filter inside of Clay?
Yeah, so I used to be very, very partial to Apollo because it was just simply better. I would say Clay recently, due to their incredible engineering work, have improved their LinkedIn source significantly. So if I was to do this again, I honestly might use the native LinkedIn import. It used to suck. Now it's pretty good. But yeah, so I imported through Apollo. All I really had, I think, for some reason, was just the website and the company name. And so I used this AI integration. And you'll see a lot of this is really AI integrations in this project. But I prompted an AI integration in Clay to visit the website of a company and give me a description on what they're good at doing. You can see I did just a lot of prompting, pretty much just saying, pop out something that can fit into this sentence. So here's the sentence that I wanted it to fit into. A couple other filters, but in short, I just prompted it to do that to give me the mission based on the website. So it visited the website, found the mission, and outputted it to me here. So helping with global identity verification, transforming industries with packaged AI, and then I just outputted it right here. And a lot of this really is the same thing. Like we used AI to provide where the company is located. And then all we did was just give it a list of plants that the store provides and said match the location of this company with a plant that natively grows there or might be located there. And then
so Patrick, question, as you're building this out for the first time, because I noticed you have 2,200 companies in there, but I'm sure you didn't start with 2,200 companies. You had to tweak the prompts and whatnot. So what's your process? Do you just do this for 3 companies first, for 5 companies, and then fine tune all the prompts and then add all the others? Or what's your process?
Yeah, so if you use an enrichment in Clay, we'll just do like an enriched company with LinkedIn just to show the example. It actually allows you to run only 10 rows. So I would just run 10 rows for each one. If I'm using an AI tool, maybe I'll do more. Like maybe I'll run 20 of them, just like 10 more manually, because I want to check to make sure the results are actually good. But for any other enrichment, all I want to see is if it's getting me the data I want or not. So I'll just do 10 rows, run it from there.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty simple. But yeah, you can see here that we added another one right here, which is just saying pretty much give me a plant that the company would be associated with, and then tell me why. And so whatever this thing is called, because it thrives in diverse conditions, symbolizing adaptability and innovative growth in commerce solutions. So it's like just a ridiculous line to put in an email, but it worked. People are like, this is really creative. Like, a lot of the responses were like, this is really creative. Like, what a great email. Like, I'm interested. And it was a really solid campaign because we knew who we were reaching out to. Like, we know the people we're reaching out to were heads of brands, heads of marketing, heads of HR, people who are like relatively open to creative ideas and are really vibe based. If we're reaching out to a CTO, we would not do this email copy at all. Like, just because, the general idea with the CTO is they just want return, or they just want help with or CFO, they just want return, right? Or that with a CTO, they just want technical ability. But with marketing people, they're kind of running on vibes. So we did a pretty crazy email copy for them. So anyway,
do you have any experience? Do you have any experience with cold emails to these non-creative people or people who are not appreciative of creative stuff? So CTOs, CFOs, like what would you do?
For sure, you have to be a lot more directly value-based with those types. So like if you're reaching out to technical people or financially based people, like people working in those more black and white roles, you have to just think, what do they care about? Like in their role, what are they most interested in changing or affecting in their company? So for a CFO, if I was to do a campaign for this plant store, I would probably talk about how plants improve concentration of the workplace, increasing revenue. And I would really focus on like, hey, like you put these plants in your workspace, you're going to get more people coming on onto the company, better talent because the vibe's better, and you're going to increase top line revenue, right? So like you just have to tie it to whatever you think their internal goal is. For CTO, I don't even know what I would do for a CTO in a plant store, but the point being tie to what their goals are. And there's a reason we reached out to marketing people. It's because they're the most susceptible to a plant store's offer. If we were selling a dev tool, we wouldn't reach out to marketing people, so.
Yeah.
Can I have a quick question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just again, to understand. So first I should focus on creating a copy, then I should think about how to enrich the copy. What would I do to make it relevant, right? What, like you said in the example, is it maybe my website is slow, right? And then I go into Clay and then I have all those enrichment points and I look for, is there a point that I was thinking about, right? And then if there is such a thing, I would just add it to my table and then just run a prompt to each of those points, right?
Yes, correct. So to go back to the point where I'm like, okay, how do I find the data to back these personalizations? What I would do as I go to add enrichment, I'd probably first start with data. So like you can see here, there's a bunch of different data points you can find on companies. So if I needed any of these, I would look there. But of course, there are a ton of other data points that aren't mentioned here. So let's say, for example, we wanted to find, for whatever reason, the company's contact page on their website. We needed that for some reason for an integration. Then I would go to a tool in Clay called clAyGent, which can scrape the web. So I would go into clAyGent and I would say, find me the contact page of the company name website, which is this. Output just the contact page URL, nothing else. I'd go down to the answer formatting, make sure it's a URL. I'd probably choose GPT-4 for this because I don't know, I always just do it, even though it's more expensive. I think it's just worth it. And then I would run the first 10 rows and just see what it does. And if it's online, if it's available publicly online, you can probably find the data for the company. It's a really powerful tool. I mean, it's just pretty much your own personal AI researcher. And we'll see if this worked. So clickatel.com, is that what the company is? Yes. Click on this. Oh my gosh. So let's see. We'll proceed.
They got some HTTPS problems.
There we go.
Here's the contact page.
So I
Awesome.
would use something like clAgent if it wasn't available. And I honestly think this would probably be pretty accurate. Like GPT-4 is insane. Yeah, it's all contact pages for these companies. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if I can't
And
find it,
then, yeah, sorry, Carl. So what's more, you could tell this same clAgent feature to analyze or look for data in that page.
yeah,
So
for
so
sure.
yeah, so he could go on and ask questions about that page. So what's in that URL?
Yeah,
Would
we
you
do
do
it
that
to
in the
find.
same prompt or a different enrichment column?
I always recommend trying it on 10 rows and seeing how far you can get it.
Okay,
Sometimes
yeah.
it won't do it right, and then in that case, just split it up. But I always try to. I mean, if it can work, it
Mhm.
can work.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah, we
the
sorry, go ahead.
the prompts I can find in any Q&A or section that tutorials on Clay as well.
There are some prompts available on like LinkedIn and stuff. They really don't have a great prompt library. If you want, you can go to browse templates, and there's a couple templates down here that you can use to find specific data. But honestly, you just prompt it yourself. I mean, I just wrote this one in
Right.
5 seconds and it worked. I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty good at like just understanding what you want. And it's not really, I mean, you can see here, it's not a very complicated prompt. So if you can't find it in the templates section, I would definitely recommend just making your own. And when you make your own, you can also save it as your own template, and you can have your own personal templates within Clay as well. So
And the
yeah,
email templates as well, like I can write a copy, but then you've got all those elements where you put a mission or personalization. So is there like a template that I can use as well?
yeah. So when you're creating the email template, like the one I showed you in Notion a second ago, you're gonna want to copy that template and paste it in, let's say, Smartlead if you're writing emails. From there, what you can do is you can actually go and send the variables that you create in Clay to Smartlead to fill that template out for you for each lead. So you can see here we have the mission, the plant, and the reason, and the plan suggestions. We've created these fields in the Smartlead integration, and all we have to do is send the little snippets we created in Clay over there. And for each one of these contacts, it'll just be its own variable, and you can use it that way. So it's pretty basic to set up. Smartlead and Instantly are probably the two best for email. I would recommend Expandy, Lemlist, and HeyReach probably best for email. But yeah, you can use you can just do this to upload all of the stuff
Thank you.
for sure. But
Awesome.
yeah, pretty basic. And obviously we had to find people for this too. I don't know if I'll be able to find this table, but like here we go. Like you have to find people who work for these companies as well. Clay allows you to do this very easily. There's just you literally just click like, I mean, if you're in a company table, you just click add people, and you'll find them. And so you see all of the people who work for those companies right here. And literally all we did here is output that data from the last table and then find their work email. Something I should walk through really quickly that I think is really cool in Clay is they have what's called an enrichment waterfall. So if you go to work email, you just type that into this little bar, you will see this waterfall section. And if you click on it, it uses several different data providers, one after the other, to try to find a piece of data. So it's super, super high coverage. It's in theory better coverage than any single data provider could give you, because it's checking all of them for the information. So if you go to
And
the
in the
water,
end, you can have it validate the email too, because these sources are never 100% accurate. So they might give you a bullshit email that doesn't really exist, but then there's a tool that validates it, and it's part of the waterfall.
yep,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
amazing. And what about LinkedIn itself? Does it in any way can scrape LinkedIn? For example, right? It's a public information, how fast or your company is growing or maybe declining, right? In the number of employees. So can Clay do it? Can like pull that kind of data from LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it right now. Find headcount growth right here. Throw in the company's LinkedIn URL, which is there a better column for this? 1 second. Here we go. Oh, that's their personal LinkedIn profile. Okay, yeah. What is company LinkedIn URL? As long as you have their URL, you can run this integration and it'll find the company's headcount growth over certain intervals of time. So obviously we don't have the input for all of them, but for this one, you can give the employee count from all these different months ago, as well as the percentage employee growth over the past few months. So if you want to ever figure out what LinkedIn stuff you can find, if you just type in LinkedIn, all this stuff will pop up. So you can find people who work at companies, find recent posts, active job openings, employee headcount by certain criteria. So you could even find people who are only in marketing, for example, and it would find, and you can add all these criteria if you want. You can find how many people work in each department at a company as well. So very good at scraping LinkedIn. I would say one of the better tools at scraping LinkedIn, considering how stingy they are about scraping it.
Amazing. Well, I love it already.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty
Awesome.
sweet. Yeah.
So yeah,
So
it's a powerful tool, obviously.
yeah, Patrick, in the last couple of minutes, can you show us a simple use case of workflows? So let's say a company's starting out, the first thing they would do is a campaign that you just walked us through, but there's this additional capability that's like mega powerful on this platform, and it's called workflows.
For sure. Yeah, so
And
pretty much
yeah, just tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, so the benefit of workflows is that these tables are obviously really hard to kind of figure out from a sequential standpoint. Like it's kind of hard to understand how to build them. And a lot more people are probably used to the visual of a like Zapier, for example, when it's just like do this, next step, do this, next step, do this. So Clay understands that, and they're obviously trying to make the tool a lot easier to use. And so to do that, they created workflows. So you can see it right here. It's in beta, but you can pick one of these three. Let's just say, for example, we want to reach out to people at companies. We create the workflow, and you'll see that it automatically creates this kind of sequential sequence for you. It's a little harder to use for complex use cases, but if you're just getting started, it's awesome, and I highly recommend using it. So first, we will get some companies, right? So we can throw in, we'll just put in like software development, because I know that that'll have a lot of people. And we want to say they're in New York City, and they have the word AI in their description or something. Let's see how many people show up for that. And we have 83 companies. Awesome. We have now found our companies. Now it's going to enrich the companies to find the people that work for the company. But we have to figure out, obviously, what sort of people do we want to find that work at this company? So we can throw in our job title. We'll put in founder, co-founder, CEO, COO, CMO, just all the exec roles, CTO. We'll do CIO as well, and we'll call it there. And then we'll limit them to being in the United States. And we will preview them. 55 people, awesome. We can go ahead and do that. From there, we will enrich them. So now it's enriching the people to find more information on them. Now we can actually draft an email. You can do this. I do it in mine in Notion, obviously, because I try to do some more complex Clay tables when I'm building out stuff for my clients, but you can also do it in Clay. So you can go ahead and, for example, let's say you wanted to use the company name as part of your email. You could say the company name glance. And then you'll see right here, we have a preview of what that email looks like. And you can pretty much do this with the entire email. So, hey, first name, you can see it's all drafting right here automatically. Blah, 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 save. I don't really want to run this actually, because it is an actual campaign I'm actually sending to people. And then you send it straight to Smart Lead. And you literally have a campaign created that quickly. So if you're starting out, 100% use workflows. It is so much easier than a conventional Clay table, albeit a little less powerful, and it's kind of hard to use for like, complex use cases. But I mean, you saw how quickly I just set up that entire campaign, and maybe it took like 2 minutes. So yeah, highly recommend giving it a try.
Yeah. So if you've built something like for the plants database, what you just showed us, that big table, like, can you put the results of that into this workflow? Because like here, what you did is you just enriched people, right? And you said, okay, enrich people, and you had no control over it. But there you were doing some more sophisticated stuff. So how does that come into a workflow?
Yeah, so all you have to do, let's say after we enrich the person, we want to add another integration. Come on, work for me here. You should be able to add, if it actually worked, another action that you can run. There we go. Oh, didn't do it. Anyway, if you're creating your own workflow, you can add another integration here, just like you would for anything else. So you can just add an OpenAI integration to one of these and put in your prompt, and it works the same way. So this one obviously is specific to finding, I guess, reaching out to people at companies with just the stuff you find on LinkedIn. But yeah, if you create your own workflow, you can pretty much do most of what you do in a Clay table. It's just a little harder to figure out how it works. And I'm just a big fan personally. Like, again, use it when you're starting out, but I just was raised on the clay table instead of the clay workflow. And it's nice for me to be able to go into a table and just see everything laid out. Like, I
Yeah,
know what all of these
sure.
outputs look like. And it feels a little bit better. It's giving me more peace of mind, I guess.
Awesome. I think that was a lot. Like for someone who's not very intimately familiar with the tool, like that was a ton, but that's okay.
Yeah,
You
for
saw
sure.
what this can do. So like if there is like one takeaway that people take home from this, everything that you just showed us and we talked about, what should it be?
Yeah, this is so antithetical to the entire thing I just went through, but honestly, keep it as simple as possible while driving results. Don't do any of the fancy stuff that people show you, including myself, unless you have the basics down. It's only worth doing those fancy things when you've gotten the fundamentals figured out. If you're getting positive responses for a normal cold email campaign, maybe experiment with other stuff. But I highly recommend testing out ideas and then using tech to scale those ideas up and allow them to like actually give you the results you want. Like you can get 1 or 2 positive responses from manually outreaching, and you learn a lot doing so. So just keep it simple. Only do the fancy stuff if you are at that stage where you should be doing fancy stuff.
Yeah, I second that. So start with strategy, know your ICP, know what you need to be telling them, know the buying triggers, know who you need to reach out to and what they like and what they need to hear, and then add something simple onto that. So that first part was just pure strategy and just sketching stuff out on paper or Notion. And then you add technology, like one step at a time. Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking around. Carlo, you got any more questions? You're good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
good. Thank you,
Patrick,
guys. It was amazing, really useful and helpful. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it.
awesome.
Appreciate it. Awesome. Yeah,
Awesome.
I hope you guys
Awesome.
got something out of it. Yeah.
Okay, everybody. So thanks a lot for coming, and we'll see you on the next webinar. I have no idea what the topic's going to be, but yeah, good that you guys were here, and have a good afternoon or morning or evening, depending on where you are. Goodbye.